Good afternoon, welcome to the Nest here at ChangeNOW. In this session centered on artificial intelligence, we've gathered diverse voices from numerous different sectors to understand how AI can be applied for social innovation and environmental impact. In just a bit, we're going to be speaking with a former French minister and from 3 entrepreneurs for whom AI is an integral part of their toolbox and their day-to-day work, so stay tuned for all of that. First, let's hear from 2 leaders at global corporations and what they're doing to support AI for social innovation and environmental impact. Please welcome to the ChangeNOW stage Jean-Philippe Courtois, Executive Vice President at Microsoft, and Ritu, Global Head of Sustainability Technology at Unilever. Come on up, gentlemen. Welcome. You want to take these 2? Great to have you both with us here. Now, what normally happens is I start by asking you both questions. But Ritu, you have a question for our audience.
I do. So we are in a session on AI. So why don't we start with a question that how many in the audience are using AI actively to improve your work life and your personal life? With a show of hands.
Okay.
Pretty good lineup.
That's more than 50% of our audience are already using it. Okay, let's find out how you guys are using it. You're both leaders at multinational corporations. In your positions as global business leaders, how are you using your voices, your networks, your organization, and your resources to support AI's use application for social innovation? Jean-Philippe.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I'm privileged, number one, because I work in a company that is mission-centered. Mission is to empower every person, every organization on the planet to achieve more. So I'm working for Satya Nadella at the leadership team level, and I'm basically sponsoring what we call National Transformation Partnership. What is that? It is a way for us to work one country at a time, like Unilever, by shaping great partnership, showing the positive and responsible side of innovation at the core of the economy and the society. What does it mean? Just to give you an example, it would be probably more telling. I was in India. We were chatting actually in the lounge with Ritu about India a few weeks ago. In India, we've been announcing a set of partnerships which are pretty deep. One is about skilling people to demystify AI. So we are on our way to skill 2 million people who are remote from tech to get them to use AI from the inception to more advanced jobs. As an example, as you may know, India is a development hub of the planet outside of the US. And so we are working with more than 75,000 women to be coders in India. Beyond skilling, it's all about also enabling startup to blossom. And we've been launching an initiative to have 1,000 startups, including, I'll come back to that, impact startups, to innovate at the core of social innovation. We are partnering with the government. In India, the challenge is to understand each other. There are, I think, 270 languages, including 22 officials, okay? In English accounting for 14%, right? Correct me.
When you counted it.
Yes, and Hindi a bit more. So what we did, we are doing the government with our research team, is a platform, an open source platform, which enables those languages to connect to each other. Okay. And the scenario we use, and it's something we share, is a remote farmer in a very small village in India, speaking his own language in a feature phone, so not the fancy smartphones we all have, but actually a cheap phone. And his language in his dialect is going to be translated into English, and then using a ChatGPT, Microsoft Copilot-like interface, connect his question to the millions of pages of Indian bureaucracy to get access to a subsidize or something it can get done. Okay. For the first time ever, this farmer or this community will be able to access some subsidies. And you can have the same scenarios on education and so on and so forth. And so I don't want to go on and on. We have a broad set of such programs, including one I have more chance to discuss later, called Entrepreneurship for Positive Impact, where we are building a community, more than 1,500 impact entrepreneurs around the globe, including some in India. I'll just name one who will be tomorrow pitching at the Eiffel Tower with his company called FlexGen. And FlexGen is all about water scarcity and water management.
Okay.
and how you use AI and technology to do that. So I'll stop there because probably too many stories to tell.
No, but what I'm hearing from this is skilling, but then also using AI to enable more stakeholders to actually communicate and work together.
Right.
Ritu, how about yourself?
Yeah, thank you for the question, and I love how you mentioned voices, resources, and network. So achieving the sustainable development goals is perhaps one of the biggest challenges that we face. It's also possibly one of the biggest business opportunities that we have. And we all need to collaborate together because these challenges are too big for any one company to solve on its own. We also feel that some of the best ideas and the brilliant innovators comes from social innovators and entrepreneurs, and they have a strong role to play in this ecosystem. In Unilever, we have a great program called Transform, which pretty much embodies what you mentioned, our network, resources, and voices. So Transform is an impact accelerator, which was set up in 2015, led by Unilever and done in collaboration with EY and the UK Foreign Development and the Commonwealth offices. So it's an impact accelerator, and it does a few things. So I'll explain the what, when, where, and how. Okay. So what does it do? So it helps impact ventures scale up their operations in Africa, Asia, and beyond. How does it do it? Through grant funding up to £300,000 per initiatives. We also connect them with subject matter expertise that resides in Unilever and E&Y. We also connect them with mentoring partners through a Transform hub that operates there. So Transform works across 6 different areas. The first is a waste-free world. The second is about regenerate and protect nature. The third is water, sanitation, and healthcare. Fourth is digital livelihood. The fifth is future of work, and the sixth is raising the living standards of the people that we work towards. And I would just give a shout out to the audience here. If you are an impact entrepreneur working on any of these areas, please give us a shout out, and we are happy to help.
Fine, Ritu, after this session, I love the interaction that's going on here. Okay, so what I'm hearing is this transforming initiative that's actually been around for quite a while now, and you've got these hubs. Now, Microsoft and Unilever, you're very different companies, products and services, but maybe possibly the same customers, but coming to you with different needs, with different users, different expectations even. How are you collaborating, and how are you working together to enhance social innovation and actually enable AI to become more robust and a better impact enabler? What are you up to?
Yeah, I mean, building on what you said, I mean, we have, number one, a wonderful relationship between Unilever and Microsoft for decades as customers and I would say partners. I think one of the best examples has been during COVID-19, sounds like an old history, where we cooperated together using our cloud and AI services to drive actually all the digital twins of the factories to make sure that Unilever could continue to execute on its mission and products to have products delivered across the world. We've been building on that, and actually Ritu is using some of our technologies as well at the core of his mission of sustainability. But recently, based on a wonderful platform that is Transform, we decided at Microsoft to formalize a partnership where we're going to bring the best of what we do. I was just briefly mentioning this initiative I actually launched here in this same place about 2 years ago called Entrepreneurship of Positive Impact. This is the vision we have as a company to bring the core innovation of Microsoft at the service of social innovators, impact entrepreneurs across the world. So we've gathered today 1,500 entrepreneurs from 90 countries, responding to all the UN SDG goals, but particularly, I would say, focusing on climate change, inclusion, social justice, and so on and so forth. What we decided to do is to actually work with Unilever and all the partners on the Transform platform to select a few of the best impact entrepreneurs at the core of the agri-supply chain of Unilever and bring all the assets we have as a company. We have developed an agri-tech platform on our Azure cloud. We're going to bring that together. We have obviously an accelerator actually built on this initiative where we are not only doing hackathons to use Gen AI to accelerate that innovation in the hands of the farmers, an example, There will be also a leadership initiative to collect our leaders, very senior people at Microsoft, to become the coach of the entrepreneurs. And we'll do that with Unilever as well. And number 3, going to market together. At the end of the day, it's about having partners for Unilever and Microsoft who will build a digital tool set to enable that value supply chain to be a lot more sustainable, a lot more secure, a lot more responsible. So that's why I'm so excited to partner, and more to come in the coming days and weeks.
Okay,
Thank you. And at Unilever, we are at a great intersection of business, sustainability, and technology. And we have an opportunity to work with our tech partners like Microsoft and others to help them converge on some of the common themes that we have. And how do we approach technology in general? So some of our guiding principles are demonstrate leadership. We have a huge, complex supply chain. We have a big network of suppliers and partners and factories that we operate with and operate in. So we want to show leadership in working and identifying the biggest challenges that we need to tackle, and how do we leverage technology to do that. The second point around that is, with the complexity and scale that we operate in, we need common standards. If you just take carbon as an example, lack of standards is one of the biggest challenges we face as a large company. So we are actively working with a number of partners in developing these standards that will help cross-sectors collaborate much better. And the third point is, how do we ensure that the work that we're doing is for the public good as well? So how do we create a culture of sharing? How do we create a culture of open source? Because closed systems will put a premium on sustainability, and it will restrict us from meeting our goals. So in approaching these technologies, we always look out to our technology partners like Microsoft. We've been using Microsoft as one of our cloud providers. We use them actively across the breadth of our enterprise technology as well. And I'm very happy that we will be collaborating more and exploring the opportunities between EFPI and Transform as well to enable social transformation even further.
Okay, so although you're very different sectors, I mean, from a business level, you're working together, but through your transformation initiative, what I actually hear is that you're sort of rising up also use cases where AI can be applied, which is so important. It's not just about sort of putting AI out there anywhere, but where are the most important places? And then, as you mentioned, having those common standards and ensuring that it's truly being used for good. Yeah. You're both business leaders, and I want to be thinking about how do we continue this good trajectory of applying AI for social innovation and environmental impact. So what do we need to be equipping and sort of skilling our workforces up with? Both those that are in the workforce today and those that are maybe currently in schools and education coming into the workforce. Ritu, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, so from a technology perspective, we've seen a huge wave of digital transformation over the past few decades, and now Gen AI has practically upended each and every process that we do. So we are approaching this in a fair manner, and how do we make it accessible to everyone? And how we are approaching is through a framework that we have, and we're calling it Go Wide and Go Deep. Through Go Wide, what we're saying is we will provide access to AI technologies and tools and learnings to the full universe of our resources, employees that work with Unilever, so that they have access to the AI tools and they are able to use that effectively and responsibly. Along with Go Wide, we are also looking at Go Deep. So we want to identify areas within our business which will have fundamentally improved opportunities and where we see productivity rise in any one of our business groups or functions. And that's the other area where we would want to apply AI very, very broadly. So that's how we're approaching AI in general.
Okay, so go wide and go deep.
Yep.
Jean-Philippe, coming back to you, thinking about then, you just mentioned actually that you're taking managers from Microsoft and actually having them work with the startups.
Yes.
So that's one thing that you're doing. What else are you up to, both internally and then thinking about your work externally?
Well, I think for a number of years, and we've been accelerating that with AI, we are reaching out to the most, I would say, either underserved communities or the people who are the most, basically uncomfortable with tech and AI. And so we've launched an initiative to train 20 millions in the world, starting with the very first level of AI fluency. We actually are kind of sister company, LinkedIn, which is part of Microsoft family companies, has developed a wonderful first level of AI certification that you can get through LinkedIn. But we are going beyond that with a lot of education systems, particularly in Africa, in Asia, and so on, to provide some free access to skilling and tools on AI on the basics. And then we get into underserved communities. So we've been, as an example, in this country, in France, my home country, there's a partnership with a social enterprise called Simplon, and they build 59 schools all across the country to go and take on unemployed people, women, and people who are non-tech, not computer scientists, into a 16 or 24 weeks boot camps, to get them into a job. And then we connect them to employers who are our customers, because customers, by the way, need also more diverse AI workforce, and not just the same usual suspect coming from engineering school, that they need too. So we have this spectrum of, I would say, of people that we are trying to reach out with partnerships, one country at a time, to truly build that, I would say, curiosity and ability for people who are going to be, for a number of them, blue workers also, maybe in some of the plants of Unilever, using AI as a tool at the core of their jobs. And that's something that is exciting. I think we have a lot to do.
Definitely. In fact, as I mentioned, we've got 3 entrepreneurs who are doing exactly that coming up right after this. But also, just Ritu made a shout out here. Also, you have a podcast, right? I'm a huge podcast fan, and that's one way also, I think, of spreading the message and helping people that are maybe not working in technology understand and encouraging them to get these skill sets in. Just very quickly, we have 3 minutes left here. How are you actually measuring your impact? What frameworks are you using to ensure that what you're doing is truly having a positive impact in an environment and our society? Ritu?
Yeah, I can go first. So social impact for Unilever is sustained improvement in the quality of life of our customers. So we touch the life of about 3.4 billion customers on a daily basis. And we're focusing on key 4 priority areas of climate, nature, plastic, and livelihood. And we will be coming out with revised versions of our long-term and short-term ambitions around there. From a social impact perspective, I would just want to share some of the, the brilliant work that the Transform team has done. And through Transform, over the last 9 years, we have reached about 17 million people. We've supported 70 different impact ventures, gain scale, and this has happened across 17 countries in Asia and Africa.
Okay, great data there. Thank you. Please.
At the idea level, we've decided as a company to bring the best again of our innovation, of people, mentoring ecosystem, and go-to-market as well, focusing on 4 of the ESG goals, so climate change, but also decent jobs and economic opportunities, quality education, and actually human rights and strong institutions. In terms of democracy are critical. And so what we do on sustainability, to make a long story short, we have committed 4 years ago to be a net positive company by 2030 in terms of all of our scopes, and by 2050 to do the same all the way back from the inception of Microsoft in 1975. In order to do that at a high level, we are using science-based targets, number one. So always using science data to basically create the plan. Number 2, we've embedded the goals in each one of our business units or P&Ls. We've got pretty large companies. And it's not just about carbon tax, it's actually about accountability as well of our leaders. So it's not just about the numbers they're going to make, financials, of course, but the way they execute on sustainability roadmap, and the same, of course, on social and diversity inclusion issues as well. And finally, I would say it's all about something that Ritu mentioned, which is so important, is the way we go out together with coalitions. Carbon Co is a great example with many others, to establish standards. We need standards, because if you want to have data that makes any sense, and we have lots of data around this event, and you check all the startups, you better use well-recognized standards going to help you telling the truth all the way across the stakeholders of the economy. So that's what we're trying to achieve.
Fantastic, thank you. So I'm hearing standards, I'm hearing collaboration, I'm hearing that if you're out there as a startup and an entrepreneur, check out the Transform program, and also check out some of the AI training and resources that are available.
And the Entrepreneurship Positive Impact. For any entrepreneurs in the room, come to us, and happy to follow up with you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much to you both. It's been an
Can I make just one point? So, one point for the whole room and in general is, every role is a sustainability role. We need to approach it as such. You don't need to depend on a sustainability function to solve the problem. There are enough decisions you could make to make our planet a better place. So I would very much urge all of us to consider our roles as sustainability roles as well. Thank you.
Great message to end on. Thank you very much, Ritu. Thank you very much, Jean-Philippe. It's been a pleasure having you both with us. Take care. As I've mentioned, I've plugged this now. We have 3 entrepreneurs joining us, working in diverse sectors for whom AI is an integral part of their organization and their tool set. We're going to be hearing from them now and learning how they've integrated this into their organizations. Let's please welcome Theo Alves da Costa. Theo, are you there? Come on up. Theo is the head of AI for sustainability and climate at Equimetrics. Welcome, Theo. And Charlotte Gimenez, who is the co-founder of Tabiya. Take a seat. And Charlotte, welcome to ChangeNOW. This is your first time up here. Come on up. And then also we have Bourhan Yassin, the CEO at Rainforest Connection. Bourhan, welcome. Big ChangeNOW welcome for them. Okay, let me just introduce these 3 entrepreneurs and what they're up to, because it's quite diverse and it helps set the stage for our conversation. And Charlotte, Tabiya creates open source software models and standards, and that's to help governments and non-profits tackle global youth unemployment, critical topic. Theo Alvarez da Costa, Equimetrics. You're actually wearing 2 hats on the stage today. So we have you as Equimetrics, which is a leader in data science and AI-powered solutions for sustainable business. And then you're also co-president of Data for Good, which you describe as a citizen accelerator. Okay. Bourhan, welcome. Bourhan, Rainforest Connection, you're using acoustics and AI to monitor biodiversity in rainforests, but then also detect illegal human behavior out there. Okay. So, quick question to you. How many of you are working in either an NGO or a startup, or an NGO startup? Okay. Keep your hand up if you are using AI in your work. Okay, we have a spattering, probably like 20% of the audience here. This is fantastic because this is what we're going to be learning about today. How do we do this in the NGO space and in the startup space? So let's come through each of you and find out a little bit about your AI journey. Okay, when and why did you integrate AI into your toolbox? Bourhan, let's start off.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Kristen. So essentially, Rainforest Connection has been using AI for the better part of a decade. We're certainly not new adopters of AI. We've been using machine learning and convolutional neural networks as a way to detect species in real time. We started out detecting sounds of chainsaws and trucks and gunshots, any indication that there's illegal activities that are going on. And we were able to use that to detect signs of illegal logging, which is a very big problem, as we know. And we can alert people on the ground almost immediately when a detection happens through the AI. Then along the whole time, we've been recording the entire soundscape of the forest along the way as we were trying to spot for illegal stuff. And we've actually been recording the entire soundscape, all the species that inhabit the forest. And we started using AI to detect species down to the individual type. So we're able to then shorten a process that would take months for a scientist down to seconds to process hundreds of thousands of recordings coming from the soundscape, coming from the forest itself. So for us, AI has been integral in our journey as a 10-plus-year-old NGO. And we're excited now to use different types of AI to integrate it into our workflow as well.
Okay, so you're using machine learning and neural networks then to sort of increase and automate the accuracy and scale through that. Okay. And Charlotte, let's hear how you're using AI.
Yes, so I represent Tabiya here. Thanks so much for having me. So basically, for us, AI really, I must say, is not an end. It's a means. It's a means to interact and to empower governments, social businesses, and charities in the world to try and tackle the global youth unemployment challenge a bit better. We started with Tabiya around 2 years ago. And 6 months ago, we hired the first AI engineers. That's to work on a product that is going to use large language models to empower young people to talk a bit better about the activities that they have at work, but also outside of work. And that includes work that they're doing as volunteers or micro-entrepreneurs, or even in the case of women, mainly, maybe like work that they do in the households or care work with their relatives. And then once this conversation with the tool will have gone, the tool is going to issue CVs and cover letters that will automatically talk to job ads that are active on platforms job tech platforms that we partner with Tabiya. So yeah, that's the work we do.
Okay, so it's enabling people to actually use voice in order to create their CVs, their cover letters, and then also this matching that you mentioned here as well.
Exactly.
So we have an environmental startup, we have a social innovation startup. Theo, you're the tech representative as such on this panel, Equimetrics. Was Equimetrics born of AI? Because of your skills base, or did you have a different start to your journey, and when was AI integrated?
Personally, my AI journey is born out of passion first. So I'm like basically a geek. I've been coding every day for 20 years. So I was young when I started. And it met this mission of making something better after it like 10 years ago. And basically I have 3 goals when I use AI as part of a toolbox to make meaningful change. The first thing is using AI to collect more data. Actually, the data part is even more important most of the time, because you need data to prove things, to prove the impact that you're having. And for example, I've been working on a personal project with my NGO that is called Bechdel AI. Basically, we are extracting data from movies to measure the representation of women in cinema, so that we can actually give this data to people making policy changes. Okay. I have a second use of AI is basically to scale something, to automate something. For example, I've been working with the environmental activist Camille Etienne last week to measure and to analyze millions of documents so that we can get some information about the forever chemical problem that we have. So basically analyzing documents that a human cannot do at that scale. That's the second use I have. And the third use I have is to try to shift a narrative, to convey a message, to adapt and personalize something. And that's where the tool like ChatGPT are actually super useful. My little baby I'm working on at Equimetrics is called Climate Q&A. That's basically a ChatGPT for the IPCC reports that is now being used by a lot of people, like journalists, scientists, just to get the information from the science reports, like the IPCC reports, but in a way that is useful for them. So for the journalists, it's to fact-check things. For the scientists, it's to find new information. So having something personalized, but still at a wide scale, like the IPCC reports, is the third way I'm using AI.
Okay, so that's very much rendering text more accessible and easy to be able to fact-check, or in fact even just understand in a more readable way. I think changing the narratives is something that we can often use these things for, but I'm also hearing from you then data collection. You know, often we think about using AI in order to parse and structure data or to cleanse data, but then data collection is something that can be very powerful for startups also. Now, of course, whenever AI is mentioned, there are concerns, there are risks. We're not going to go deep into that here, but given that we've got 3 very diverse startups working on it, or organizations working on this, let's actually just check in and scan through what are the concerns for you in your sector of activity. So, Anne-Charlotte, you're working with individuals' data. What is the major flag for you?
So for us, really, I think the main concerns relate to biases induced by AI and representation. That's true because we also work in like fragile settings. So we work with people in low and middle income countries and with marginalized groups like women, LGBT+. We work with people who don't really necessarily talk languages that are very well represented in the AI space for now. So we're trying to be very careful with all of this. And to do that, we think the best way to go is to collaborate with local organizations and with academics. We are based at the University of Oxford, so we do a lot of work with academics at Oxford, but also with other academic institutions around the world, including in South Africa a lot. That's where we started with our activities at Tabiya. So yeah, collaboration with people who really know the communities for us is key. We're not going to be interacting with end users ever. We always trust our collaborators, our partners to do that.
Okay, so it's but the bias then that is the sort of the primary area of concern, because you're working with individuals' private data, and so collaborating with those people. Bourhan, you're not working with people's data, you're working with biodiversity data.
Yes.
So what is the area of concern for you, and what are you up to there?
Yeah, well, I mean, for us, animals don't have privacy.
Not yet.
Not yet, maybe soon. But yeah, so it's an interesting thing. There's a couple of things to mention here about potential AI privacy issues. One is to talk about the illegal logging part, right? As I mentioned earlier, that some of our work is focused on detecting illegal activity. And one of the most important things, as we have an AI model that's essentially doing this in real time, is obscuring the locations of where the devices are, because we don't want illegal loggers to end up actually discovering those devices and take them down. So we want to make sure that we're being pretty clever about what those AI detections look like. On the other part, with species, you have actually a lot of sought-after species, critically endangered species, for example, spider monkeys or even howler monkeys in Central and South America, where they are a trophy for poachers. So revealing locations of detections of these species becomes essentially a blueprint for poachers to go and find them. So if you go on our website, and we have public projects, we have hundreds of public projects, whenever an animal is classified as an endangered species by IUCN's red list, we automatically remove the location of it to make sure that the AI is not revealing too much information. So those are the couple of things that we sort of pay attention to when we're using AI.
So even if you're not managing individuals' private data, we need to be careful about location data, as you mentioned. Tia, is there anything that's a particular area of concern that you always check in on?
Yes, and I could talk about it for hours. By the way, I have a workshop tomorrow on that if you want to deep dive more on it. But if I have to mention one concern, as I'm working mostly on environmental topics, is all of the possible environmental impacts of AI. Most of the people think about energy consumption, which is one thing that is really important, especially when it comes to scaling. So the fact that we have an acceleration of AI being everywhere is actually what drives most of the consumption. But what's even more concerning for me is the way that AI is used in just products and tools and usages that are not making a change. For example, I don't know if you know that one of the most used tool on ChatGPT, on the GPT store, is a tool called Laundry Buddies to help people do their laundry. And that's not what I want for the world. Now the AI is in toothbrush that you actually have to manufacture. It's in sleeping nap, so that you have a sleeping mat that adapts to your form. So there are so many products and new usages that we created just because you mentioned born of AI and not for a specific question and for a specific impact question.
Born for impact and born for social innovation. Yeah, okay.
So that's what concerns me mostly.
Right, so just so that we know, so checking in on protecting private individuals' data, protecting location data, but then also ensuring that the use cases where we're applying AI are protecting also our society and our environments. Good points. Now, AI is expensive, okay? And the talent is in very, very high demand. So if you're out there, you're a startup, you're an NGO, how do you actually find these skills and these resources? Theo, I'm coming back to you and putting your data for good hat on now. How can the startups, the entrepreneurs, the small organizations out there actually have access to the skills and the resources?
There's a big question of network, because Data for Good is basically a citizen accelerator, as we are saying. So we have thousands of volunteers that are basically geeks like me that want to make their skills useful for something bigger, and to use them for other NGOs. And such similar organizations exist everywhere in every country, and there are just tons of people that would love to have just more meaning to what they do. What AI is born from a job that is called a data scientist. And 10 years ago, people were saying data scientist is the most sexiest job of the 21st century. And recently, people don't think that at that level, because they now understood that it put the emphasis on data science and AI and not on why you're doing that. And so just finding people somewhere they exist that want to do something to help other NGO for impact, that's everywhere. And basically that's what we do at Data for Good. And we are actually welcoming people to come see us, because that's actually how we actually have impact. We can only deliver some impact if we meet with people on the ground. And one of the big questions is more AI for whom? And so if we have those people and if we meet with NGOs, that's actually how we have some meaningful projects as well.
Okay, so I think network definitely, but sort of backstage we were actually talking as well about sort of like the mindset change for the entrepreneurs and the people that maybe think that AI is inaccessible, and then giving them sort of like training and understanding some quite basic use cases in which they can help them get them started. No code, for example, I think is one way in which AI can help young entrepreneurs, startups, NGOs out there. And Charlotte, how about yourself?
Yeah, I agree with Theo, really. Theo. I think one way to go is to start with no-code or low-tech MVPs and then go to your founders. Another way to do it is to go with collaboration. And at Tabiya, we are trying to grow an ever-growing community of tech people, but also researchers, civil society representatives, to work on a product and also contribute to a code base. By the way, if there are any coders in the audience who are interested in tackling the global unemployment challenge with us, please do get in touch.
Find Anne Charlotte right after this panel.
Definitely. And one last thing I'd like to say is that shortage of talent can be an issue when it comes to access to tech and AI. And one way to go about it is to think about the tech talents, young tech talents that are based in low and middle income countries. They exist, they are available, they'd be more than happy to work with you on your projects. At Tabiya, we hire a big team of them. We work remotely with them. They're mainly based in Ethiopia, Rwanda, India at the moment. And it's been fantastic working with them.
So spread your horizons, but I know that you're also part of a partnership. I mean, just earlier we heard about from Ritu about Unilever and how they're creating partnerships with startups. But also I know that what you're doing is there's a collaboration of you working on it. So that's another great way of being able to bring in talent and resources. Now, often when we're starting up a new organization focused on social innovation, focused on environmental impact, many people go down the NGO route. Okay, so I have a question for you, Bourhan, because I want to ask, how can NGOs be competitive and innovative as a startup? And in fact, how can using AI help you become robust as an organization? Because I think Rainforest Connection is a good example of this. Tell us how you're doing this.
Yeah, so I think for us, an NGO is just a tax status. There's really no difference between a for-profit and a non-profit organization when it comes to being competitive, when it comes to having product, when it comes to actually collecting revenue. There's almost no difference whatsoever. Now, of course, there's the issue of ownership where an NGO cannot be owned by the individuals, but there's many ways to tackle that as well. But I think the beauty and the benefit of an NGO is you're staying mission-driven. You're not going to get diluted at some point in the future by investors and so on. You're staying very mission-focused. You can attract a lot of talent that are very passionate about the mission itself, and if you're resource constraints, that would play a role as well. A lot of the talent at Rainforest Connection put the mission first before their salaries, which is not a common thing that you would find in the for-profit world, but certainly in the NGO world is very common. And I think that the ability to get funding from philanthropic avenues, to the ability to get funding from big organizations that is able to bootstrap you for a moonshot type of project. I think there's a lot of benefits, and that's why we chose the route of an NGO, because it gives us those benefits, and you can attract the best talents of the world. And one more important thing that I'd like to mention on the whole AI front, it's never been as accessible as now how AI is. Back when we started, and still till this day, the way we use AI, you need very highly specialized skills. You have to be a biologist and a data scientist at the same time to tackle the problems that we solve with species detections. But now with Gen AI, you don't need to be a data scientist. You need to be a prompt engineer, more or less. Know what to tell the AI to create multiple solutions out of it. So I think it's a better time now than ever to be an NGO or to be a social enterprise that's focused on AI that it's ever been in the recent history. And that all surfaced in the last, I think, 18 months or so.
And what I love about when I actually looked into what Rainforest Connection is doing is that you now have effectively created this kind of cloud storage service for acoustics. So that's part of your business model also.
Yeah, I mean, as an NGO, one of the ways that we're giving back to the world is all the learning. So we have a large science team. In the world of acoustics, it's a science team that rivals the likes of Cornell's ornithology lab. It's about 13 people, 13 ornithologists on staff. And these people are taking on direct projects. They're working with people on the ground and so on. But the one unique thing that we're doing is that we're actually rendering ourselves essentially useless every single time, because we're taking all these learnings and we're making them available for free on a platform that's called Arbimon, that is meant for biodiversity scientists and acoustic specialists to use. So the same techniques that we develop and we publish papers on are made available on a cloud AI-powered platform that any scientist that's starting can use a no-code approach to start using the science of bioacoustics for biodiversity monitoring. And that's sort of what we do as our main mission.
And I think that's a great example of how, in fact, you've been able to use AI to create that sort of business value. Theo, how about yourself? Any examples of how AI can actually be used to create robust business for startups and for NGOs?
The good thing about AI is that it's actually quite kind of general. Like, it's algorithms, and we can use it for many different things. So at Ecometrics, when we built this tool on the IPCC reports, actually we can extend it to many other topics. Because if you matter about what it can do, which is analyzing documents like quite dumbly actually, or collecting new data points, actually you can, if you are in the mindset of an entrepreneur, you can think of many things that you can use to solve those kinds of problems. So if we, for example, take, instead of the IPCC reports, we take regulations, or we take like the new greenwashing directive, for example, we can just use the same algorithm for something else, for another impactful use case. And because of that, it's actually easy to imagine and to scale to some other like business ideas.
And I think this is what I've heard from both of you also, and also in our discussions, the ability of now our LLMs to actually create these new narratives or to help us interrogate data differently. You've got this sort of pocket climate scientist in here as such, and I know that Bourhan, you mentioned sort of like the ability to use LLMs to create a super scientist and to interrogate your data and think about what questions you need to be asking. Very quickly, we've got just under 3 minutes left. I'll throw this question open to you. What's next in your AI journeys? And Charlotte.
Okay. So we're working on the first product that's using AI at the moment. We're supported by Google.org and Make Sense, who I think a lot of you might know. They're here at the summit at the moment.
And next in your journey with them?
Yeah, exactly.
What's coming next in your journey with them?
And so basically, we are going to release our first MVP for that product at the end of August. And we're hoping that from there, we'll get the resources necessary to then go on and further develop our tool. That's the only tool we think we'll need AI for at the moment, but we never know. We might hear from governments or civil society organizations who need other products that we will then endeavor to develop for them.
Okay, so we'll be keeping an eye out for your MVP in August, Bourhan. What's next in your AI journey?
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting one. There's many things, but imagine a world, and I think, Kristen, you touched on it a little bit. Imagine a world where there is a super scientist, somebody that knows everything there is to know about a particular project on the ground. Whether, let's say, it's a restoration project, it's an organization that's trying to plant 1 million trees, and they need to know whether the tree species that they're building is going to bring biodiversity back or not. And you have this large language model that's been trained on all the data that came in, and all the acoustic data, all the data that came in from satellites. It knows all the publications that ever been published in the world about the work that you're doing, and it's able to give you very direct recommendations on what you need to do and exactly what you need to make happen. I think that's the best way to accelerate the world of conservation and to directly go after programs such as restoration programs or remapping protected areas. I think that's the next usage of AI, and hopefully we'll be part of that journey. We'll see.
Okay, we'll be watching you also, and that's a great horizon that you've put out there for us. Theo.
Very quickly, it's kind of the same thing, like what we've been doing with this tool, Climate Q&A, that, by the way, is free and open source, is making the past scientific assessments about climate and biodiversity available to everyone. Our goal now is to try to help in any way scientists produce the future assessments on the state of climate and nature. And so we're working closely with that, and we just released this new version that now has access to 250 million scientific papers to enrich it with the new scientific knowledge that has been produced since the past IPCC reports, so that it can help scientists just see through all of the papers and know what they can analyze from that and save a lot of time for us, for humanity, have a better understanding of our situation.
Theo, thank you. Thank you to yourself, to Anne, Charlotte, and to Bourhan. I hope that's inspired many of you as to how you can use your AI and through their examples, their journeys, give you some ideas. Your AI journey can continue tomorrow because, do you want to plug your workshop again, your Data for Good workshop? What time is that tomorrow?
At 6 tomorrow on the meetups part there.
Okay, so that's another way in which you can continue your journey. Thank you very much to the three of us. Stay right here. We're continuing our journey with our next speaker. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, our final guest in the session is joining us to discuss how technology and sustainability can and indeed must coexist, and she's incredibly well placed to do this. We're going to be welcoming Axelle Lemaire. Axelle, if you're backstage there, come on up. Axelle is the Group Head of Corporate Responsibility and Sustainability at Sopra Steria. Axelle, come on up. Welcome. Thank you for being with us here.
Hello, Kristen. Hi, everyone. Thank you for inviting me.
It's great to have you. Now, many of our French friends in the audience may know you from your political career, but let me just share a few details so that everyone else joining us understands who you are. You were elected to the French National Assembly in 2012, and in May 2014, you were appointed as the Minister responsible for digital affairs. But today, and here now with us, you're the Group Head of Corporate Responsibility and Sustainability at Sopra Steria. You joined them in October 2023. Very recently. Yes. So can you tell us, please, what does your role as Group Head of Corporate Responsibilities and Sustainability mean? What does it mean to you?
In one sentence, it's putting sustainability challenges with innovation in order to invent solutions. In a few more sentences, we're tackling issues around the environment, especially making sure that we comply with demanding regulations, right? But also doing everything possible to meet our carbon reduction target. So that's net zero by 2040. We also work on the social side because we're convinced that making sure that our employees and people feel good in their working environment is a condition also to foresee and follow the SDGs. And then we also work on the solidarity or work with local communities side. So I'll give you just one example. Sopra Steria has trained and helped to fund education for over 50 children in India. So these are very concrete projects, right?
And what does it actually mean to you as an individual? You've told us about your corporate role.
What it means to me? Well, it's a good summary of my career, actually, because I've always been driven by the general interest, but also a little frustrated about things that I couldn't achieve in the past. So I'll give you one example. I was in the French government during the COP21 in Paris. That was a huge, important moment. But at the time, the digital sector, the industry itself, wasn't too much aware of the challenges. It was very difficult to embark them. So, of course, we launched a label such as the Green French Tech, and we were trying to support the green tech ecosystem. But that wasn't enough. And what I find in a private company like Sopra Steria is people and the project and a strategy that is very reactive, and it's a fertile ground to build on in order to make sure that real and concrete solutions emerge. And what I also like, I must say, is to work directly with business units and operations, because the stake is really to move the organization, and I would say to move the economy as a whole towards sustainability. And the condition for that is to make sure that it's really embedded into the operations. So we, in my team, work really directly in contact with salespeople, for instance, and people who will concretely deliver the projects for our clients. So it's not only about regulation, it's really also about very concrete business projects that we're working on.
Okay, and what I'm hearing from you is that you see your focus as not just being in the organization, but also, as you said, with all the stakeholders and the suppliers, that entire ecosystem there. So you're now working across both tech and sustainability. What are your greatest points of concern and therefore attention with regards to these two, and why?
So if I start sharing my concerns, the list is long, and I hope I won't sound too pessimistic. But there's a reality, and it's not very often said. So I feel I'm now in a position where I can say things, right? And so there's one reality, is that the digital sector weighs for 3 to 4% of the global gas emissions worldwide, and that's more than the civil aviation sector. Did you know this? And so that means that it's polluting, and we think of it as being immaterial, virtual. I used to say we will produce dematerialized public services. That's untrue. Actually, it's online public services, but it's not because they're digital that they're not material, right? So I think we have to change the way we look at the reality of the pollution emissions of the sector. That's for one thing. The other thing is we're at the moment in human history where the pace is increasing. Let's take Gen AI, for instance. It took Instagram 2.5 years to reach 100 million users. It took ChatGPT 2.5 months to onboard 100 million users. So, and they found their first 1 million in 5 days. The pace is becoming faster, right? So, and I was visiting ChangeNOW, and I saw a car that is more or less being deconstructed. So we're relearning how to build a car that would emit less than how it was initially invented by Auguste Otto back in 1866. And so what I would like to see for the digital technologies is to make sure that we don't wait until the 23rd century to start producing and building IT equipment and smartphones that are less emitting and also consume less energy, water, and mineral resources. And when you actually look at the figures and when you look at how the equipments are being produced in China, and the minerals extracted in the Republic of Congo, in Venezuela, the amount of water that is being used without consideration for natural resources, it is a problem for the industry, not even to talk about the waste. And you know, some countries are used as garbage for our electronic waste nowadays. And so I believe, even though Sopra Steria is not directly concerned, I don't have to, speak up on that agenda. But we're part of a value chain. We need to work alongside our suppliers, and they are IT equipment suppliers, and they are cloud providers, to make sure that, it's more virtuous. So this is a kind of call to the whole value chain. Industries are getting organized now, while the digital industry needs to get together to face these real challenges.
Certainly, because as you said, this is something that we've been thinking about through, say, the energy or the clothing or even the car industry for very many years, but the digital industry maybe not so much. Can you tell us about a specific example? For example, you mentioned the impact on the resources and the waters, a specific example that illustrates the impact that AI is having on our territories.
Yeah, sure. Well, you know what? It's difficult to give real figures, and the reason why it's so difficult is because we miss standardized data. And the sector, and we provide digital services, so we don't at Sopra Steria produce equipment or provide cloud services. But the sector as a whole doesn't share data. And so it's difficult to answer your question, and we're all about, open source everywhere. The reality is that there's opacity in the production of data about the environmental impact of digital technologies. That being said, we do have some researchers. I'll quote just one from Stanford University in June of last year, 2023. They compared 10 AI models, and they eventually concluded that it was impossible to calculate the real footprint because of the lack of standardized data. But we know from a lawsuit that took place in Iowa, in Des Moines, which is where ChatGPT trains their ChatGPT-4 models, right? And they were sued by local residents, that the impact of the only training of ChatGPT-4 on the local city council was 6% of the water consumption of the whole county. So that's the kind of figures that we know we're looking at the moment.
And figures that aren't so widely known, as you say, it's quite opaque at the moment. And in fact, just coming back to what Ritu and Jean-Philippe was saying this morning, earlier on this session about the sort of the common standards and the transparency with the data there. So let's think about, sort of technology then and sustainability. Friend or foe, that's all pretty binary. Different people can use different sets of data to make their calls. Why is there such a blur when it comes to identifying the pros and the cons of technologies and indeed also AI?
Yeah. And I agree, I don't feel so much at ease with that friends or foes things because the reality is not binary, right?
We need both.
We need both, and thanks to transparency, I believe. But let me ask you a question, because Sopra Steria published a poll today about this connection between the environment and technology. So the question asked was, do you think that artificial intelligence will play an important role in the fight against global warming? So will it help the fight against? So what would you say? Will it play a positive role? If you think that yes, it will, please raise your hands.
Maybe about 15% of
50%, yes.
Something.
Well, you're a little bit more skeptic than the general public because the overall opinion was 58% believe that it's going to play a positive role. So I was saying I don't want to sound too pessimistic, and I wouldn't be here if I was pessimistic, because when I look at the 1,000 solutions that are being exhibited, and when I talk to the project owners, I just think it's amazing what we are likely to do to address climate change. So maybe what we need to define together is the conditions under which AI should be used. So in my opinion, I've tried to think about this, and I think social innovation is key, because we need to use even not before or while thinking R&D and technology. See, what is it going to be used for, and is this going to be useful? So that means raising the question of the ROI, the return on investment, but also the return on impact. What's going to be the positive impact of using AI? So that's the first condition, I would say. Another one is, but we've addressed it already, is transparency. Making sure that we know how to calculate and measure the reality of the impact, and that we share the information and the science that we have about those experiences. And then I would say use innovation and work along social innovation ecosystems, and not only in labs and not only between scientific engineers that not always, but sometimes won't question the aim and will only question the way to execute. So I think these are the right ways to address this question of AI, yes, and we know it will play as an accelerator of finding solutions to combat climate change, but under which conditions?
Okay, so it's not a friend or foe thing. These needs to collaborate together. We need the transparency in here. You also mentioned about sort of the collaboration between different people, the industrial actors, the researchers, the governments and the policies. Are you optimistic, pessimistic? Do you still hope that tech is an element of sustainability, and can you give us maybe an example of what gives you hope there?
Yes, well, the example, I will take it at Sopra Steria, because it's people within the company which have developed internal tools, open source, together with players in the outside ecosystem to measure for our clients the reality of the impact of our IT systems and the systems of our clients. So one of these tools is called G4IT. It's green for IT. It's available, it's open source, and this really is based on the commitment of employees who believe that it's necessary to test, measure, and share knowledge about the tools that they develop. And another one is a kind of G4IT turned AI. It's called EcoMind AI. It was developed in Rennes, in Brittany, and along with Boavista, if you know that player in the French digital ecosystem. And it's a tool to, again, measure the impact of AI on a project. And another thing that we're doing as part of our AI program, which is called RAISE with a big A and a big I, and I think that Yves is in the audience and he supervises that program, is first we train people, and not only the tech and geeks, right? We train employees about the use of AIs, and when we train them, we try to identify the ways to reduce the energy consumption by design. So we're trying to use AI in eco-design ways. So for instance, we know that it's when training the models that the energy consumption is the most intense. So we're trying to develop ways of training models that are less consumptive. And finally, we're trying to identify the best use cases for our clients that will be about not only adapting to the, not only attenuating and mitigating the current situation, but also adapting to it. So let me come back. I don't know if we have time.
We've got 2 minutes. Go ahead.
The CSRD. CSRD is a regulation, right? For some, it's a nightmare. It's the Corporate Sustainability Directive reporting. And it relies on 2 feet. And basically, one is about attenuating the impact, and the other one is about adapting or mitigating. In this adaptation stage, the second foot, the second leg, we're helping clients to invent new solutions. And we need digital technologies, right, as layers, as basis and foundations for these new solutions. But we're good at attenuating. We're good at making sure that we're trying to reduce the impact of technologies. What we need together also as actors in a larger industry to work on, and where we need to be better, is really on adapting with new solutions. And so we're doing that by developing very concrete use cases with our clients, which have a positive ROI, in the sense return on impact. What we want and what we're looking for is the ROII, the return on impact and investment.
Return on impact and investment. And Axelle, thank you so much. I just want to pick up the threads that I heard from you, and in fact have heard throughout this session. So definitely the transparency and awareness of the data, the impact of the digital sector. Also very much then about the sort of common standards coming together, but consistently throughout this session we have heard about the use cases and where and how AI is being applied smartly for that ROII, as you just mentioned. Thank you so much, Axelle. It's been an absolute pleasure having you with us here. I hope that this session has given you some thoughts, inspirations, but also ideas as to how to we can properly use AI for social innovation and environmental impact. Thank you so much to you all. Thank you, Axelle.
Thank you.
Thank you.